fast, you know? And so I don't normally go live for as long on Saturdays. But hey, you know, we'll give it a shot. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. All right. Oh, look at this. Trolls are here within a minute. Within a minute. That's how non-threatening and unafraid of me they are. That they're just sitting there waiting for me to go live. Anything else in the world you could be doing. And you're like, oh shit, he's finally live. It's amazing. Oh, so, what is the new? Number 11. Kind of coffee, don't you think? Now, you better get rid of that your biggest fan thing. You wouldn't want people to know the truth, would you? You don't want me here? No, I don't care. I nothing you. I don't want you here. I don't not want you here. I appreciate the fact that multiple times over, you guys could say anything, and instead of saying what I'm wrong about or anything, you just play stupid. And that, to me, lack of evidence against something, or lack of evidence for something, is evidence against. So if I was wrong, you'd say so. But, you know, you make my numbers bigger. I don't give a shit. I nothing you. You're nothing to me. Sorry, if you want to be more, okay, but this would all be so much harder without trolls, without the dumbasses constantly proving me right. So let's go back to chemtrails, because that's what we were talking about yesterday. And chemtrails. So what you look up, lack of evidence is not evidence against, but that's, yeah, no, it is. It is. If you can't show evidence for what you're saying, then what you're saying isn't true. You know, if I sat here and claimed to be a millionaire, but then showed you my life, you wouldn't believe me. It would be lack of it. You'd say, oh, prove it. And I could, what? Show you my piece of shit car, house, whatever. And you'd be like, you're not a millionaire. But that's, you know, I wouldn't expect stupid people to understand that. I wouldn't expect stupid people to, unless of course they were arguing the point themselves. Like if they were trying to say something and I couldn't come up with anything to debunk their narrative, they would absolutely jump all over that. But yeah, evidence against is completely, or lack of evidence is evidence against. You can't make claims without having any sort of evidence. And again, thank you, stupid, for being stupid. Burden on proof is the one making the claim. Right. So that's where the evidence comes in, you dumb ass. Burden of proof is on the one making the claim. And all of the things I talk about and I show you lots of evidence for, you don't have anything negative to say. You can't. You have lots of negative to say, but instead of debunking the things that I'm talking about, which would be the natural progression of things, you're just more obsessed with me. I'm talking about big picture. You're talking about me. And you can't disprove anything I say, which shows you everything I'm saying is true. That's where the lack of evidence comes in, I suppose. There you go. Look at you. Fucking debunking yourself. The the chemtrail conspiracy theory page starts off by saying, the chemtrail conspiracy theory is the erroneous belief that long-lasting condensation trails left in the sky by high-flying aircraft are actually chemtrails consisting of chemicals or biological agents sprayed for nefarious purposes undisclosed to the general public. You know, the average person, if you try talking to them about chemtrails, which the evidence is all over the place. There's not a lack of evidence of chemtrails. There's an overwhelming abundance of evidence of chemtrails. So then you go to look it up. What's those chemtrail conspiracy stuff? You type in chemtrails into Google, and chemtrail conspiracy theory is the first thing that pops up. And so then the first thing that's said in this on this page is the erroneous blah blah blah. Well, all you have to do is, so that's the first sentence, undisclosed to the public. Believers in this conspiracy theory say that while normal contrails dissipate relatively quickly, which they do, contrails that linger must contain additional substances. Okay, that's the second sentence. The third sentence says, those who subscribe to the theory speculate that the purpose of these chemical release may be solar radiation management, weather modification, psychological manipulation, human population control, biological or chemical warfare, or testing of biological or chemical agents on the population, and that the trails are causing respiratory illnesses and other health problems. Which, again, you know, RSV and all these things that just seem to appear. The big problem is that a lot of you don't understand that a lot of the things that go wrong are also caused by vax. Things like hepatitis B, things like Guillain-Barré syndrome, which is actually polio, and polio, same thing, actually caused by the pokes. But you know, like the largest outbreaks of hepatitis are all associated with pokes. Guillain-Barré syndrome, you see it on damn near every vax commercial you see. You know, get this shot for flu, get this shot for whatever. By the way, there's an increased risk of GBS or they might say Guillain-Barré, or they'll just say GBS, which is named something that most people can't pronounce, so they won't even bother asking. And if they were to be honest and say, you know, you have a slight risk of catching polio from this, nobody would fucking take it. But because they call it GBS, like, oh, Jesus. The one thing you have to notice in my feed is that I come at you with facts. I read you what they want us to read. I'm always quoting, you know, people that you've never heard of, like Dr. David Sensor, you know, the whole GBS thing. It's not like you've actually looked into any of this. That's the funniest thing. It's like most of the people that will talk shit are just talking shit out of a knee-jerk reaction, because that's how you're programmed to respond. But you don't know any of that shit. Have you ever seen one of them trans people? Yep, we have a really good friend that's trans. And anytime you have an issue with gay or trans, I assume it's because you have a tiny little pecker and you're really insecure and blah, blah, blah. I should change the screen name. Why would I change the screen name?
Look who's the new cover for the group.
Okay.
For the whole group. It's a big group. The cover girl.
Big ass group that if you were to mention, we should all get together and help these Palestinian people who are being genocided as we speak, you get kicked out of the group.
It's a pet group. It's an animal group.
So you know how many pets? Do you know how many pets are being destroyed, are being killed by Israel? You know what? I should have been coming at you like this the whole time. Do you know how many people over there have dogs and cats and all kinds of things that are getting bombed just as bad as the people are, if not worse? Because the people, at the end of the day, they're going to try to save their children, which I would hope you would too. But, people's dogs and cats and birds and all sorts of slaves are getting killed. Because you don't want to stand up for what you believe. Because you don't want to stand up for what you believe. So what am I doing? If I'm not standing up for what I believe, what am I doing? Yo, Nate, no problem, son. Good to go. So just like with everything else, all you have to do, there's a ceasefire, dumbass. Yeah, there's a ceasefire to supposedly, because they can't keep pulling off this hostages bullshit, right? They have to stop the hostages narrative. Because it's getting to the point where it's so obvious that there aren't really hostages. And Israel is running out of excuses for it. So they have to do this thing with with fake Hamas, because Hamas is just like Al-Qaeda, just like ISIS. They're just going to get their people. They're not even getting their people back. There are no real hostages. Just like there was no one killed on October 7th. I mean, you guys don't remember. They already did this whole ceasefire thing so they could get rid of some of the hostages. But, how are they going to do like an all-out execution if the thought is that there are hostages sprinkled in amongst the people? When you see the hostages that get released, look at how tan they are. Look at how not skinny and gaunt they are. They don't look like hostages. They look like regular people. And what's been happening, is that when the Israelis decide that they're going to go and kill a whole family, they then have, three people dressed up as a soldier. When they go in, they strip down, and now they come out, and those were the hostages that they found. Benny Gantz has said for months now that Israel knows exactly where all the hostages are. When the Hamas agents are interviewed, they say, we don't know. We don't know how many are left. We don't know where they are. Apparently, Hamas is placing hostages in individual family houses all over the region. And these people aren't chained up. They're not even mistreated or anything, apparently, other than having to lay in a bed for a whole day. One of the J Princess had to wash dishes. Can you believe they made a J Princess wash dishes? You're Y-O-U-R, a woke vegan Alex Jones. Well, you're Y-O-U apostrophe R-E, not very smart. But there's never been any Israeli hostages. It's all a fucking lie. Just like it's a lie that around 1100... Well, so it's not a lie. It's just a manipulation. When they say around 1100 people were killed in Israel on October 7th, well, they admitted that they killed around 1,500 Hamas, or innocent Palestinians that they just labeled Hamas, almost immediately. So then when they say things like around 1,100 people in Israel were killed, they're not necessarily lying. They just want you to think it's Israelis. If it was Israelis, they would have said around 1,100 Israelis were killed. You have to pay attention, and you have to have been paying attention for longer than since October 7th. Because you'll see, you have to have more evidence. You can't just base it all on this one narrative that we've been given that they worked really hard to make happen. It's so much deeper than that. And you have to understand how frequently the Jays lie to us. Or You believe that that people can be murdered. It's unsolved. They don't have any. They don't know what's going on. Someone could be murdered at 6:30 a.m. and the newspapers tomorrow, morning newspapers tomorrow, talk about the funeral yesterday was beautiful and attended by over 1,000 people. Only the Jays seem to be able to pull this off, where they can have somebody can be killed and they can be. I mean, in Israel, they tried to say that, or they did say that 2 Hamas militants shot up a gas station, killing 4 people, 2 of which were some girls under 25 years old or whatever. And 3 hours after the incident, the rampage was taking place, which is when settlers line up in a row and they just walk forward and they break everything. They light things on fire. They beat people up. They do all kinds of shit while they have the IDF behind them threatening to shoot or arrest anybody that fights back. And that was 3 hours after the killing. And the only reason they waited that long is because they wanted the girls to be in the ground first. So the girls were killed. It was investigated. The holes were dug. The funeral was had, and they were buried all within about 2 hours. You guys believe that? You guys believe that? Do you believe that's possible? You know, when they told us about Hai Shaline, the #1 Israeli protester against the masks and the Green Pass and the pokes and all that, who was arrested at a no-mask rally, 2 days, taken to the prison. 2 days later, he was taken to the hospital. And 8 days later, he was dead from super COVID. He had the super COVID. You've heard about a lot of people dying 8 days after getting sick, haven't you? No symptoms whatsoever. Then suddenly they get arrested, they get sick, and then they die. Well, guess what? #1 Israeli protester, blah, 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 has 0 social media presence. 0 social media footprint. He basically didn't exist. But that's a conspiracy theory. Don't you believe it? Understand what you're seeing. I mean, the fact is, like I always say, I'm talking about this. There are tons of people that me talking about this makes them mad. They could be eating, they could be showering, they could be hanging out with friends, they could be watching a movie, they could be learning something, they could be they could be doing anything else. And instead, they're here and they're mad at me for exposing the truth about Israel and the Jays. Gee, who's going to do that? How many of you care about the Jays that much? Other than a bunch of dumb Jays who obviously can't actually debunk anything I say, so that's why they just talk shit. Remember, if somebody, any of these people talking shit, if there was something they could point to, they would. They would absolutely point to something instead of talking to each other and talking whatever dumb shit they, I'm living in my mom's basement, my 2-story basement. Like, it's just stupid. And you have to ask yourself, like, really, do you know anyone that would do that? Do you know anyone that sits at home looking for truthers, especially those talking bad about Israel, so they can jump in and try to interfere with the feed? Not debunk the feed, not intelligently interfere with the feed, but just to the point where the person doing the feed is grateful they're here. Evidence, the lack of evidence is evidence against. And if there was evidence that I was wrong about anything I'm saying, believe me, these desperate trolls would be all over it. But most of them are too stupid. I mean, most of them, again, you don't know what the fuck is going on. Anti-Semitism, I wonder who also sounded like this. Anti-Semitism. Well, thank you for at least using the right word, stupid. Because do you know what Semitism is? I noticed you spelled it the new way. You guys know that in 2021, they held hearings and whatnot to officially change the spelling of anti-Semitism from ANTI hyphen capital SEMITISM to ANTI SEMITISM. All one word, lowercase. And their stated goal for doing this was because they didn't want us Goyim to think that anti-Semitism opposed something called Semitism. Can you turn the tea water on, please?
Gabby wants to do something to create a board for when it's time for them to play to be able to.
No. Just laugh at him. He knows he's lying. But what is it, Nate? What do you have to do now that can't wait 36 minutes?
Get up. Get up and come here and explain it to him.
If you were right, you'd be jumping up to explain it to me.
I want to. I don't even know what Mom said. I'll do it.
Mom said that you there's something you need to do so you can set it up so that you can blah blah.
Yeah.
There's no reason why you guys can't wait another 36 minutes.
He wants to just make a board real quick.
It's not me. It's
Okay,
you.
okay.
Wait, I'm gonna say it.
Okay, stop. You're nuts. I don't know what game you're trying to play, but you know it's not going to work, which is why you didn't ask me. It's why you didn't ask me. Normally you would have yelled up, Dad, can we blah, blah, and you know better. Stop it. Just stop. Just stop. You know better.
Yeah, Dad.
Yeah, buddy.
Nick wanted to know if I could make the board.
I know how this works. Because I'm really stupid. So, I can't think of another example of this. If anybody can tell me another example where a word was changed, where they changed the spelling of a word that had been around for 140 years. Because anti-Semitism was initially coined in the 1880s. And it was by people who were saying, who were experiencing the same things we are, but in Germany, in Europe, where the Jays completely controlled everything and made themselves the heroes. Now, let's do this real quick, okay? So we'll come back to chemtrail conspiracy theory. We're just gonna prove a point real quick because people like to say stupid things. So I'm gonna prove the point. So we're gonna say Semitism, Semitism, definition. Shit. Fat fingers. Semitism, definition. And we're going to go to the Merriam-Webster. Okay, Merriam-Webster, Semitism, nothing fake here. Semitism, noun. It's a noun. Number 1, Semitic character or qualities. Now, Semitic, let's just do this. Semitic, often referring to or constituting a subfamily of the Afro-Asiatic language, including that family that includes Hebrew, Aramaic, Arabic, and Aramaic. Number 2, often referring to or characteristic of Semites. Number 3 is Jewish, real big, but that's not it. Semitic is everyone in the region. All of the people are Semitic people. Even black people are considered Semitic people. Now, number B, or letter B, a characteristic feature of a Semitic language occurring in another language. Okay? Number 2, policy or predisposition favorable. Policy or predisposition favorable to Jays. You see the Jays? You see that? You see what that is? So what does that mean? Because they can't just outright say it's Jay supremacy. But what are they telling you? Right? What are they telling you? They're saying policy, which is the laws, the rules, the way that we do things, policy, and predisposition, which is how you view something before you know, going into it. You know, going into it, I'm going to Hawaii, so I have a predisposition that Hawaii is going to be warm. I don't need to pack a bunch of pants and snow pants and shit, because that's not what's going to happen in Hawaii. Hawaii has a warm predisposition. That's how you see Hawaii. That's how you think. So when they say policy, the rules, regulations, and the viewpoint, the perspective, the before you go into anything, you have a perspective that's favorable to the Jays. Think about that, man. For what? Why should they have any more favor than anyone else?
Eat those too.
Yeah. I mean, it's really, really stupid. And it's so obvious that there's nothing they can do about it anymore. They're just sort of holding their breath, hoping we don't figure it out. They don't want people like me getting out there because, you know, they don't want people being educated. They don't want you dumb fucking goyim knowing how they view you, what they call you. They call you goyim. Do you know what that is? Goyim means nation. It's anything that isn't them. Anything that isn't Jay is goyim. So the cattle, the people, the dogs, the cats, the beds, the chairs, everything that isn't them is for their service. We're here to serve them, and we're all just dumb fucking goyim. So in 2021, they decided to change the spelling of this word, which means somebody has to go back through. They have to pay people to go back through and adjust legislation and textbooks and all that shit to make to change the spelling of anti-Semitism. I mean, ask yourself, why do they always refer to it that way? Why, when they sort of make it sound like you're anti-J. So why don't they say that's anti-J instead of anti-Semitism? Because they don't care if you like their shit, if you believe their shit. They don't care. They don't care if you support their religious anything. What they care about is they would much rather you be a Christian than anything else, because Christians have been brainwashed. Think about how crazy this is.
This is crazy.
Wait. Christians believe that their Christian God's only kid, who's their superhero, was killed by this other religion, the bad guys in the Bible, like the main bad guys, the children of Abraham, who also happens to give you the Abrahamic religions. But you believe that the people that killed your Christian God's only son and your superhero are your Christian God's favorite chosen people. If you don't understand who's controlling the narrative at that point, I don't know.
That's disgusting.
Okay.
That's disgusting.
It should tell you something. I mean, Detroit has the highest ratio of vacant homes to unhoused people in the United States. 116 to 1.
It's fucking sick.
I mean, if
we
you...
have enough houses in Detroit to house all of them and then some, and we're just letting them sit vacant.
Right, because just like with Barry, instead of lowering the rate and only making $600 per month, they want to make $900 per month. So instead of making $600 per month for the last 10 years, they've been making nothing per month, and now they have a vacant piece of shit home that somebody owns it.
It's blight.
It's blight now, right? And they still have to pay taxes and all that. So it literally costs them money instead of lowering the rate. But that's
the city money, which in turn costs the taxpayers money.
But that's also
pays for that.
That's Red Fox. That's instead of giving Red Fox the 25% of the show that he wanted, they let the fucking show die and they lost their 75%. Now they claim that they did after the fact when it was too late and the show had already died. But it's like, this is how they do things.
Those homeless people go into any of those livable homes or vacant homes that are still livable and have shelter for a night. oh my God, then we gotta get the police in there and kick those people out.
Well, I mean, again, we allow all these people to be homeless when the vast majority of them have mental issues. And a lot of them got their mental issues from their service, from serving in the government that fucking, they figured something out and it cracked their head.
You know, and the other thing is, too.
Imagine if you had killed a bunch of people because you believed in that. You believed and you knew when you were doing it, you were shooting women and children in their little huts.
All the guys that came up from Vietnam.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Imagine what that does to your head when you realize, holy shit, we were never in danger. Our freedom was never at risk. This is all Jay stuff. This is all just Jay bullshit. Imagine how that fucks with your head. You didn't want to do it to begin with, but you were doing it because of your patriotism and your that bullshit that they pushed in your head. That's why they got you as a kid. And you're in Musk. My house, this is my house, my house. You know? That's how you think. And they take advantage of that. And they tell you all this, you're in danger, you're saving your family, you're protecting our freedom. Because they hate our freedom.
This is what your ancestors did in order for us to have the country that we have today.
Right. Right.
Play on grandpa and great
all that bullshit.
It's fucking
It's all
sick.
bullshit.
But, you know, the other part is, too, the municipalities, whether it's townships, cities, whatever, they...
Revenue generators, you mean?
Right. They will make it so that a house that it has been vacant is fucking impossible to bring up to spec without spending more than you did for the house. And that's what keeps these houses vacant.
Partially.
It's really sick.
I mean, a lot of the homeowners are Jays. That's why Detroit is the shit pot it is. Detroit, if you look at all the old pictures of Detroit and you hear the old stories, Detroit used to be this metropolis. This is where everybody with money wanted to be. And then when they built the suburbs, it was the Jays that moved out to the suburbs while still owning all the shit downtown. And refused to fix any of it. That's the whole slumlord. That's them. They refused to fix any of it. They created this ghetto. They also control the laws. They also control how much money goes to the schools, the allocation of the money, the resources of all sorts. It was all a fucking plan. They herded the black people in, drop all the rates, destroy it. I mean, if you think about it, it's the hood is usually where the majority of the old world buildings are. The old world buildings aren't in the fucking, in the burbs and shit. And they're using it to destroy everything. I mean, there are places in Detroit where it used to be a neighborhood just like any other neighborhood, house after house after house. And now there might be one house on the block. And it's by design because you'll have one of the worst areas of Detroit butts up it's really hard to describe it because people will think you're lying. But there's a street called Chalmers. And on the Detroit side of Chalmers, it's the fucking hood.
Cheddar Ave.
On the other side, on the east side of it, is Grosse Pointe. It's the line between Grosse Pointe and Detroit. And the cops literally sit at the border.
They do.
And they wait and they just look at all the cars that are crossing the line. And the cars that cross the line that are, undesirables.
They pull them over right away.
They pull them over immediately. So obviously they can control it.
So Dad, could we play 20 minutes early?
No.
Okay.
They control it. They patrol it. And yet we act like, it's just like this. And it's just disgusting. It's disgusting. The open racism in the police force is just awful. And you can't expect people to be the people you want them to be if you put them in such a, a purposefully manipulated situation from the beginning.
They don't just pull over undesirables. Anybody that shows they have a residence address in Detroit.
Well, they can't necessarily see that.
Yeah, they can. They pull
But-
up your
No,
tags, the registration.
If they come out behind you, right. But I'm just saying, they're looking for, they could,
Even if you're not doing anything wrong and your home address is Detroit.
they don't, but again, the home address is the thing that confirms it. When you cross that line and you're not in a, brand new lease car and you, I don't know, might be black, or if you're white, you have on the thug uniform, you have your tattoos and whatnot. Okay.
Just wanted to show you.
Yeah. Like it's strange because, like, I don't understand what the issue is. If you're not racist, you should have zero problem pointing out racism. And I'll get people that'll come on here and be like, yeah, but you look white. Well, if white people were to say these things more, things would actually happen. Black people make up 13% of the country's population. And that's including the children, the people in prison, the people, who aren't eligible to vote and all that other shit. That even if every single black person could vote, 13% is really not going to do very much.
The fuck was that?
Something.
Launched off my chest.
Something.
Jesus. You scratched me?
Not that I can see yet. It's not Puffy yet from his shitty litter feet.
We should pull his claws out.
Yeah, we should do that. But like pretending that there's not racism all throughout the police and in just the judicial system. It's.
Oh, tell him about the fucking drunk that the police were like, yeah, no, we're not from the yacht club.
What?
Yeah, no, we're not gonna. The drunk.
Oh, well, it would happen all the time. You would see rich, like the people, like the guys who, when they pulled up, we knew who they were, and we didn't give them tickets, and we're like, hi, Mr. So-and-so, hi, Mrs. So-and-so, and, we parked their cars up front, and they'd give us $20 every time they came in. Those kinds of guys, they would leave the fucking establishment, 2-3 hours after they got there, and they would be fucking hammered.
But wasn't there the one night that the cop?
And we'd give them their car and they drive off. And one night a cop was there, and we were talking to him about it. And we were like, why don't you guys just sit out in front of here pulling people over? Those are the people that can pay their shit.
They can afford it.
Right.
It's not hurting them.
It's not like you're gonna generate more revenue when they don't pay their stuff, or create another inmate eventually. It's not like that'll happen. Why don't you? He's bleeding, he says. Why don't you guys pull those people over and set things up? And he was like, man, we can't pull those people over. Are you crazy? You know how much trouble we'd get in if we pulled those people over? If we do, we give them a ride home. We'll make sure they get home. We'll follow them home, whatever it is. And most of them, they only lived within a few miles of the yacht club anyway. So it was crazy. It was crazy. It's crazy to hear. Like, I don't know. I guess I just live in a different reality than most people do, because I don't have any like I'm just as disappointed and embarrassed by black people as I am by white people. What's been manipulated into the consciousness of what it means to be black is so awful. It's just so awful. You go to the schools and the kids, especially in the inner city, they all talk about wanting to be rappers. or wanting to play a sport of some sort. That's their only real goal in life. Why? Because that's the only people they see. Those are the only people that make it. They haven't been showing us TV show after TV show where it's just a normal American family who happens to be black and the dad's a, you know, whatever, a fucking real estate guy, you know, whatever. All those same hundreds of thousands of different, you know, father knows best and leave it to beavers and all those things that existed for all the that didn't include black people.
You should have seen his face when I said, "Did you start your period?"
I was gonna say it. I'm glad I didn't. I'm a paranoid schizophrenic with involuntary narcissistic rage. Yeah, that totally sounds like me. I'm always I'm always raging out on my wife. I beat her, kick the dog, beat the children. I'm bad. That's what happens when you speak about these kinds of things. Suddenly, dumb J's come in and start saying dumb J nonsense to try to make you look bad. And it's amazing. I love these comments. I can't tell you how important these comments are to my feed. These are pedophiles. These people that are here are pedophiles and they're J's. And anytime they say anything to where they don't say anything to the contrary, they just sort of let that shit slide, they're proving it to you. Because most people wouldn't do that. Just like most of you wouldn't come on here and if you disagree, start talking about random shit. You're going to talk about what I'm getting wrong if you disagree. But when you can't and you have a job to do, like a lot of these people are bots, you know. Team Jorge is one of the biggest elements of this feed. There are a few things that I hope everybody learns, and I'm going to mention them on every feed I can. Team Jorge is one. The Samson option is one. I'm going to remind you that as Christians, you think the people that killed your Jesus are your God superhero? You know? That they like to cut and suck baby penises, that they think the woman's vagina is just fucking horrible, like putrid, needs to be cleansed.
If they want to have sex with it.
Right. Well, as long as it's clean, straight from the mikvah. You know, if I tell you that if I start talking about how the Jays totally control Hollywood and how
that job of inspecting before they leave.
I mean,
let me look at your vagina.
It's better than the moil. But if I sit here and I start telling you, the moil is the guy that cuts and sucks the baby penises.
Honey. You have another day. Go back.
No, 7. If they find anything, you have 7. And they check you before you go in.
I thought that you said they check you on the way out
no.
to make sure you're clean.
No, they're not going to check you after that. Now, once you're clean, that's nobody's but your husband's. You better get your ass home so he can get himself a little piece of that clean pie. That's how that whole thing works. But if I start talking, and all these things, if I start talking about these things, if I start talking about Hollywood and how they absolutely with an iron fist and only them control Hollywood, but admit to controlling Hollywood up until 1998 when the fucking movie was made, you're going to be like, oh, you can't say that. It's anti-Semitism. It's a negative for me to say that they have all this power and money and control. Why would that be a negative unless you're doing it for nefarious purposes? Otherwise, that's an amazing achievement. 0.183% of the world's population, 2 to 4% of the United States population has all the money, power, and control. That is a compliment of compliments. So why are we taught that that's some sort of slur?
Well, it's actually not, because when you do look at that, then you suddenly realize that's a fucked up dynamic, and that's actually wrong, and it should not be that way.
Not just that.
That's when people will stand up and fight back, and that's what they're worried about.
Well, but not just that though. We also realize that if somebody is in total control, then the way things are is by design. They controlled things to be this way, and they could control it to make it better, but they don't. So it feeds into that whole mentality of, it's why they give you guys two main religions, right? Because if everybody was just a Christian, eventually, which is probably what happened the previous time or one of the previous times, we were all on one side and they were on the inside, but they were such a small number comparatively, and we didn't have anything to be fighting over, Once we realize that it's us versus them, we're going to be like, hey, why do they get all the advantage? Why do we give Israel $3.8 billion a year? So they can build giant mansions for their people and give them monthly checks and shit? What? Why do we do that? Nothing I say falls under the category like, I don't do anything that I don't talk about anything like the stereotypical slurs and shit. I'm talking about stuff that is on the government level that everybody should be concerned with. Doesn't matter what distraction you fall for. These things that I'm talking about, these are 100% things. There's no theory going on here. Nothing I talk about is made up or, fake in any way. Like, it's all real. It's as real as they want us to know. And as I always say, if they could say something against what I'm saying, they absolutely would. Why do you think they get so mad? Who's going to get mad at what I'm saying? Is it the same people that will tell you that if you say they have all the money, that's a slur? Well, we all know Rothschild central banks are everywhere. And the Rothschilds are who? The Jays. So just on that level, the Jays control the money. But if I'm wrong, why doesn't anybody ever tell me what I'm wrong about?
You're a star. Overnight. Cover girl.
Just think about how stupid it is. Think about how desperate these comments are. These are the comments that are like, you ask somebody, hey, have you heard about this? And they go, yeah, I've heard about it, but what do you know? I want to know what you know so I can see if you've heard about it. Because they're too clownish to admit they don't know. Anyway, let's get back to it. So, if you start looking up chemtrails, well, you think with as many times as I've typed in this word, you'd think it would populate. So you type in chemtrails, you get chemtrail conspiracy theory as your first thing that pops up, the Wikipedia page telling you it's a chemtrail conspiracy theory. The first 3 sentences, which are decent sentences, long sentences, the first one says the chemtrail conspiracy theory is the erroneous belief that long-lasting condensation trails left in the sky by high-flying aircraft are actually chemicals or chemtrails consisting of chemical or biological agents sprayed for nefarious purposes undisclosed to the general public. Believers in this conspiracy theory, second sentence, say that while normal contrails dissipate relatively quickly, contrails that linger must contain additional substances. Kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Those who subscribe to the theory speculate that the purposes of the chemical release may be solar radiation management, which is the first thing that pops up, then weather modification. Well, the thing is, you then click on solar radiation management. What's that? You want me to do it? Okay. Click on solar radiation management, and you find out that solar radiation management is a group of large-scale approaches to limit global warming by increasing the amount of sunlight solar radiation, that is reflected away from the Earth and back into space. Among those potential approaches, stratospheric aerosol injection, first thing that comes up, stratospheric aerosol injection. Along with, is the most studied, followed by marine cloud brightening. That's the second one. Stratospheric aerosol injection is them. What do you think it is? What do you think stratospheric aerosol injection is? You think that's like folding laundry or something?
No, I thought we weren't supposed to use aerosol because it eats our ozone layer. So why are they injecting aerosol into the stratosphere?
Stratospheric aerosol injection. To block the solar radiation because the global temperature has gone up by 0.5 degrees.
Just re-release Aquanet then. Well, I don't understand.
That's funny. But so that stratospheric aerosol injection is the first thing that comes up, and then marine cloud brightening. Marine cloud brightening, also known as marine cloud seeding. Right? So now we go cloud seeding. What's cloud seeding? Cloud seeding is a type of weather modification that aims to change the amount of the amount or type of precipitation, mitigate hail, or disperse fog. The usual objective is to increase rain or snow, either for its own sake or to prevent precipitation from occurring in the days afterward. Right, because you wouldn't want it to rain in a couple days. You want it to rain today for some fucking reason. And then here, look, lots of pretty pictures and diagrams showing you exactly what they're talking about, how they're dropping shit into clouds and then they're making it rain. And it's funny because we're talking about something. Cloud seeding is undertaken by dispersing substances into the air that serve as cloud condensation or ice nuclei. Blah, blah, blah. Let's see. Methods of dispersion include aircraft and ground-based generators, with newer approaches involving drones delivering electric charges to stimulate rainfall, or infrared laser pulses aimed at inducing particle formulation. Despite decades of research and application, cloud seeding's effectiveness remains a subject of debate among scientists, with studies offering mixed results on its impact on precipitation enhancement. And then you'll find that there are multiple cases where it does work, and then they just sort of say, like they say that in the, what was it, in the 60s, they were able to slow hurricane speeds 10 to 30% using these methods. Now, if you look at the airplanes that were used to do that in the 60s compared to the jet fighters we have today, if you look at the cars that we had in the 60s, if you look at the televisions, the beds, the couches, the clocks, the video games that we didn't even have in the 60s compared to today, you look at how we've advanced so dramatically, so drastically since the 60s, but not the ability to slow hurricane, not the ability to manipulate the weather like they could in the 60s. Do you know how stupid you have to be to believe that shit? Like it's monumental. Weeks ago, everyone that tries to prove you wrong, you ban. Oh yeah, I ban it. I've been banning people. Can anybody show me anybody? So instead of trying to prove me wrong, so I would ban you for trying to prove me wrong, but not for saying something stupid like that. Gotcha. Got him. Do you know how stupid you got? Like, God, I appreciate it so much. Again, this is Israel saying that if the UN were to open the books on Israel, that would demonize Israel. Right? Because that makes sense. Right? If Israel was doing good shit, you could still demonize them simply by opening up their books, right? Like, this is how stupid the Jays are. They say things like this all the time. And you just, I appreciate it. Again, all these comments, instead of telling me what I'm wrong about, that instead say something stupid like that. Like, I mean, I couldn't even write it out, pay you guys to do better. If we somehow were working this out.
On an almond?
What?
Have you ever cooked yourself trying to crack open an almond?
Yeah, all the time.
I did.
What time is it? Not time yet. 1 minute.
Okay. Smoking, we go around.
I just, I can't tell you again. Just think about it. If they could, they would. It's just that simple. They're here and they're mad. So if they could debunk, they would debunk. Instead, they say stupid things. Can't ask for anything better than that, you guys. I mean, it's actually better than somebody trying to debunk me. I'm literally reading you what they want you to know, and these guys are acting like I'm making something up. Why? Because what I'm talking about sounds so utterly ridiculous. You've been trained to believe that it's not possible for us to manipulate the weather, and chemtrails aren't real, and all the. It's an erroneous conspiracy theory, yada yada yada. When the reality is, this is the best they can do. Yeah. I always hope people put themselves into this situation. If you're really the type of person that just goes to troll things and look stupid. Oh, Joe Biden is making a fucking appearance on SVU? Ugh. I love how like this narrative, the president is saying this shit, right? Well, why is it this way then? Why aren't we just allocating all the funds instead of giving them to Israel to murder people? Why aren't we allocating all the funds to do the rape kits?
Because these people don't know that those funds are being sent over there. That's why. People don't know about the shit. And then if they do hear about, the government has.
That's just a conspiracy theory.
Or, they just figure,
Israel is our greatest ally.
People know what to be doing with
Exactly.
the money.
Exactly.
We just don't have all the information. That's what the average person believes.
Because you've been convinced that you're too stupid. That even though your fucking sirens, your red flags are going off, and everything's telling you that something isn't right, you've been told and taught to believe. Like, this goes all the way back to your religious upbringing. At some point as a kid, you were like, Mom, and she already knew it was coming. You're pulling on her shirt, pulling on her dress, whatever. Mom. Shut up. And you ask her, why are there so many poor people in the world? And we just learned about the other day in class about lots of kids dying in Africa. Why does God let all those kids die? We don't ask those questions. Shut up and pay attention. Say your prayers. And you're like, oh, okay. Sorry, Mom. You learn right from then on, like, because your mom, she's not mean. Your mom thinks the same thing, or she at least used to. And when you say that to her, you remind her of the human she used to be. And it bothers her. Because it used to bother her, and now it doesn't bother her, and that bothers her. Oh, have fun, yay, you can drink alcohol, yay, alcohol is so good.
He was supposedly wrongfully imprisoned.
Yeah, but he can go drink now. Yay, if he was like, man, I want to just go smoke a joint and chill. You're arrested, sir.
When this one was made.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't legal yet, so yeah. It's funny to see the shows where it's still illegal and people are busted for a little bit of weed.
It's not funny at all. It's horrendous. Because you just have to understand, like, how many people's lives were ruined over some fucking weed.
What I don't understand
Over
is
a
how
plant.
You know, depending on the career,
They shut the comments off.
how they still do drug tests for so many different jobs. I get certain jobs you shouldn't have anything in your system. They're testing for alcohol too. You know, I get that. There are some jobs that nothing should.
I disagree. I disagree.
But,
How can anybody that smokes weed say if you smoked a joint the night before because you had a stressful day or whatever, and the next day you wouldn't be able to perform your job as well? That's insane.
But for people to not be able to get, there's still so many jobs doing drug testing where you won't be able to get. That's fucking stupid.
Because they can.
I mean.
Well, at the end of the day, I mean, especially
Or if
if
they
you're...
do test for drugs, not for, weed.
Again, most of the people that come through that are going to pop on those tests aren't going to be the people that... Like, you're going to be surprised if you come in all businessed out and yet you still were to pop. You know, they expect that they're just going to weed out a bunch of the Ma's coming in. And, it's foolish. I mean, on their end, it just depends. I think anybody that's in any sort of sales field, you already know. You want people that have sold drugs before. You want people that have had a foundation in sales.
I mean, I get testing for opiates. I get testing for heroin, cocaine.
That's opiates.
Well, I get that. Those are addictions that could definitely affect judgment, performance, whatever. But weed, alcohol,
It's crazy.
like I said, the fact that they still do, I get it, they did it when it was illegal.
Still, the whole notion that they kept it illegal for so long. While they were all smoking and shit, they were doing it. It's not like the system was anti-weed. It was everywhere. It was everywhere. Movies and right. And it was a revenue thing. You're gonna bust people with this small amount of a plant, and then they've got to pay court costs, and they've got to pay lawyer fees, and then they've got to go through the program. Northville, Oakland County, the 52nd District Court. One of the judges there was Judge McKenzie, and he was an absolute piece of shit, tyrant monster. Like, he was such a horrible person. Everybody thought so.
Felt so bad for his daughter.
But his mother, or his wife, started the JAMS program, which was the jail alternative, blah, 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 something, where instead of going to jail, you would call in and they would read the numbers or colors or whatever. And if your shit was red, you had to you had to have $25 and you had to go get whatever test you needed. I mean, maybe it was multiple $25, I don't know, per test. When I got in trouble, it was just before they instituted that shit. But the idea that the McKenzie family was making money off of something
that he was sentencing people.
Right, that he was sentencing people to. How is that not a complete conflict of interest?
It totally is.
Or, when Governor, which one was it? It wasn't Whitmer. It was,
what was her name? With the short hair and the glasses.
Right, whatever her name was. She decided that if you got in trouble, you didn't have your insurance, or there was Granholm. There was multiple things where if you got busted with it, you then had to pay. It was $200 per year for 2 years.
Oh, that was the driver responsibility.
Responsibility fee, right? Which your ticket and then subsequent payment of said ticket
And points on your insurance, raising that up
Right.
too.
Is your driver responsibility fee.
Right.
To add an additional $400 for what? What? I mean, when we think about it, so who decides that a seatbelt ticket, if you don't have your seatbelt, well, that's worth X amount of money. Who decides that, like, you can go to jail unless you pay X amount of dollars? How does that amount of dollars override what you did?
Some bullshit is what it is.
It's just crazy. It's a system designed by them for them so that they could get away with whatever they want. That's why they're the judges, they're the lawyers. They control that whole system.
Naked woman chases Jehovah's Witnesses off of her porch down the street, yelling, "Succumb to my devil vagina magic!" Oh my God, those guys were so scared of her.
I would have been.
Look at her too. She's not attractive.
And she got arrested for it.
Yes.
What she should have
She
done.
ran down the street naked. That's why.
What she should have done is when the cops showed up at her house, been like, "Yo, what are you talking about?"
What rain cameras?
Well, go figure it out. Go do your investigation. Go find your proof. Because I'm not about to admit to anything. Anything.
Succumb to my devil vagina magic.
They threaten you and they do all these things, but you actually have rights. You don't realize it, but you have rights. When they come to your house and they say, "Oh, this, that, and the other, you got to give me your ID," or this, some kind of bullshit like that. No, you don't. You only have to give them ID if you've committed some sort of crime, or they think you're about to commit a crime. Have, are, or about to. And if they can't prove to you that you've done, well, this person said that, well, this person said that. So, show me some sort of proof. That's why they need you to admit to everything all the time. We just want to hear your side of the story. We have enough to bust you. We just want to hear your side of the story. Yeah, no, you don't. If you had enough to bust me, you would. Alex should have never admitted to anything. I never did a goddamn thing to him. Show me that I did something to him. We've been taught to, like, overwhelmingly support this revenue service that is a foreign agency. It's not like it's not what you think it is. And actually, according to the laws and shit, they truly don't have any authority over you if you stand up for yourself. But that shit, when you do the whole sovereign citizen thing, you're going down a bad path. Like, you better know your shit inside and out, and be prepared to deal with the consequences. You might come out on the end of it like, okay, but you're gonna have to pay. You're gonna be in trouble. All right. Understand that you're more likely to be killed by a cop than anyone else in your life. That is so fucking weird to say. It's weird to think. And it's strange that nobody talks about it. But, the average person isn't going to come across somebody with a gun that is allowed to shoot you if you don't listen to them in any other circumstances but, getting pulled over or dealing with cops. And it's not like the majority of the cops are all for the people and come in good. Like, there's a shit ton of them that are clearly roided out. There's a lot of them that have, you're the 5'6", ugly little redhead guy. You got chips on your shoulder, dude. You shouldn't be allowed to be a police officer, going out there, taking it out on everybody you think was mean to you. It's such a strange thing because I'm so pro cop, but I'm pro good cop, and I'm starting to think there are no good cops. Unless you can show me the video, the proof of one cop stopping his fellow cop from breaking the law, from hurting someone, from violating someone, I'm going to keep thinking that at the end of the day, it's the thin blue line. And they don't cross that shit. It's really bad. You know, you can see lots of videos where the secondary cop or whatever doesn't have his ego triggered like the first one does. And he's just standing there off to the side, like keeping quiet, you know, giving his identification where the other one wouldn't, blah, blah, blah. But he has to go along with his brother in blue. Whether they end up costing the taxpayers, you know, the community, you know, at the end of the day, the cops that violate, they don't get in trouble. Them getting in trouble is them getting a vacation where they get paid for it. All right, Nick. Nick, you're done, dude. If you're already starting your shit, you're done, man. Really? Then he's just yelling for no reason. Nathan, then beat him. Nathan, it's video games, dude. You both talk crap. So beat him. Why don't you just beat him? Little brother syndrome, man. It's got to be tough. All right, well, pedophiles, kill yourself. We'll come right back since they shut the comments down. Go get your free download. It's in the description.